Thank you for joining us today. My name's Deborah Honig, and I'm a partner at Adelaide Capital, an IR firm focused on value and growth Canadian listed companies. And today I have joining me David Suda, CEO of Gold Terra. Thanks for joining us, Dave.
Hi, Deb. Nice to see you over Zoom.
I know, isn't it lovely?
This is our new norm.
I know, I like it. So David and I actually, despite many years of trying not to work together, ended up working together on the desk at Beacon a few years ago. And we both, I think, left around the same time. And I went off to start Adelaide and Dave went off to join a gold company. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that transition?
Well, once you left, Deb, there was just no reason to stick around.
Yeah, well,
But
no one to make fun of. You mean?
great. And thankfully, there was an opportunity to go do something really tremendous outside of my sort of comfort zone, so to speak. And, for quite a while, working on sales desk, I had the opportunity to look at different companies and always aspired, to potentially make the move and put all my eggs in one basket, so to speak. And shortly after you left, I guess in 2018, an opportunity came along. I was shown the company then called TerraX by one of its larger shareholders, and they had expressed that the company could use somebody with capital markets experience, with some relationships, somebody who could communicate. This was a huge move, and I think having seen many successes and quite a few failures, I felt that I was able to sort of look at a company in a very pragmatic way. So first of all, is there interest in this type of company? Is there, a market in that sector? 2 years ago, I thought we were going to see a gold bull market, and we're seeing it now. But it's been a bit of a longer wait than I wanted on that front. But certainly, it was an area that I was conversant in. I grew up in the brokerage business at Paradigm Capital and cut my teeth under two of the best analysts on the street, I still believe. And so I was comfortable talking about the resource space and more specifically about mining. So I saw this opportunity that was presented. And at the time, then TerraX was a very simple play for me. If you're coming into a gold bull market, then major gold producing companies which haven't invested in exploration, there's been no major discoveries, they're having jurisdictional issues, they're going to have to start to snap up assets to replace their reserve pipeline. And so looking at a company like TerraX, now Gold Terra, it ticked three major boxes for me. And so in essence, I'm coming back to this elevator pitch. Number one, it's in a great jurisdiction, Canada, and it's a high-grade gold district. It's a proven high-grade gold district, and it's big. It's nearly, at the time, it was around 780 square kilometers of 100% owned property. And so, you've got this high-grade district that had produced historically 14 million ounces between two mines, which are now closed, and both closed due to low gold price. Those mines produced that 14 plus million ounces at roughly half an ounce grade, so like 16 grams a ton. Cutoffs were, call it, 10 grams. So these two mines were right next to the town of Yellowknife, and our property, the then property that I was assessing as an opportunity, surrounds the city of Yellowknife and extends the call it the strike length of the structures of the Archean greenstone belt that we're interested in. That strike length is nearly about 70 kilometers long. So if you compare that to, say, another Archean greenstone belt, the Porcupine Break in Timmins is also about 70 kilometers long, and we all know how many ounces have been produced there. So these two mines produced about 14 million ounces along, call it, 10 or 15 kilometers of the 70 kilometers of strike that we currently hold. So for me, I'm going, okay, this is in Canada. It's high grade. There was past production. And then the real kicker is, and the challenge for me with pitching juniors in the past was always, it's in the middle of nowhere. Like the cost of drilling is extremely high. And then if you do end up being able to put together a resource that has to be extremely high grade because of how remote it is, it costs a tremendous amount of money to build. And in this particular case, I was blown away by how close to infrastructure this project is. Our primary targets in our current 43101 inferred resource are within 15 kilometers of town. And we access those targets by road largely, and often make the joke that, your coffee's too hot to drink when you get to the drill rig after buying it in town. So this was really, for me, the opportunity. We still weren't in a gold market. There had been 6 years of sort of hand-to-mouth exploration on a massive property. The share price was certainly lagging. The team needed a boost. It needed reinvigoration. The shareholders who'd been in the story, while being very supportive, had sort of flown the flag through the wars and needed support, needed fresh blood. And that's what I intended to bring. And so coming in, we had to take a look at where the quality was in the asset. And that was even more apparent. The further I went under the hood, the more I knew that this thing has a real chance. And then we had to get around and start to tell the story again and bring new shareholders. And as we did that, we learned that one of the pitfalls of having a massive property, even though it's right next to town, and even though it's on trend with past production, and even though there's been tremendous high-grade intercepts over the last sort of 5-6 years, if you don't start to put something together, the market isn't patient. We don't live in a patient market. You need to deliver quickly. You got to gear max, maybe 2 if you're showing signs of getting somewhere. And so I think the market grew tired. There seemed to be a lack of focus. There was smoke all over the place, but no fire. So we decided to get focused. We ran a full prospectivity analysis. We took all of the data that the previous team had put together. And believe me, the previous team, they're no slouch. Joe Campbell was the CEO who offered me effectively his title. And Joe still runs our technical program now. So we do have great continuity. Joe, I think, was really operating with a lack of funds in order to do everything he needed to tie things together. But the data that they'd collected sort of, across the property was of tremendous quality. It was collected in the way that a major would collect it. So we had a full data suite. We had, land, geophysics, air geophysics, LIDAR, soil samples, surface samples, drill holes, historic drill holes, geochem, biogeochem. So it was really a full suite of data that we were able to put together to run a prospectivity analysis and decide, okay, let's take this smoke and go to a spot where we think we can actually light a fire. Let's find the fire, let's light a fire. And so that process took some time. We went through some tough markets, but we managed to do some drilling, and we managed to put together a resource, which ultimately I think is the cornerstone of or call it the first rung on the ladder from which we intend to climb to the top.
When did you put out that resource?
That was last fall. And it was controversial to put it out because we had told the market that we were going to put a resource out by the end of this year. And I think I'm sort of leading you to your next question, but we had some management changes. We bolstered our team, and when that happened, we decided, let's start fresh and let's put out a resource that we can talk about, and we can now arm wave around the potential steps up the ladder.
Okay. Just before we get to the resource, maybe you could talk a little bit more about the management changes, because it wasn't just yourself that's changed at the C-suite, correct?
Correct. As early as a few months into joining then TerraX, I saw that in order to move a project in the kind of markets that we were in and seemingly continue to be in, although there's very strong light at the end of a shortening tunnel, I believe. I'm not the kind of person who joins a team and then says it's all me and I'm going to do it all. I'm more the kind of person that joins a team and goes, okay, well, I'm good at these things and I'm really not good at those things. At that time in those markets, at that stage for the company, it was so clear to me that we needed a person who could bring a serious track record of success, not just, a scientist, geologist, somebody who was, who had already done this before, because you need to be able to sit in front of people and say, yes, we have all of these great things. And not only do we have all of these great things, we also have the validation of somebody coming on board who sees potential here, who's actually done it before. And we found that in Gerald Panneton. So it took a little bit of time for us to get him on board, to figure out a way for Gerald to be involved. But ultimately, we brought him on, and this is a guy who really, he worked at Barrick for, I think, about a decade before he built Detour, and he built 2 mines for Barrick. And talking to Gerald, I'm sure that you'll interview him at some point. You'll hear that he calls that sort of school or university, and it's where he put together a lot of his team that he took to Detour. And as we know, Detour was recently bought for nearly $5 billion. It's one of Canada's flagship operating mines, and so bringing Gerald on. And seeing the enthusiasm that he has for this asset and for the potential of the project is tremendous. It's great for shareholders. It's great for us. He's very hands-on. He's taken the title of executive chairman, so I effectively hired myself a boss. But I actually view that as one of my best accomplishments so far with this company, was to bring somebody of his caliber.
Yeah, well, it's a huge win for the company to have Gerald. So congratulations. Just also on the management team, you have a very strong board, and I actually know your CFO, Mark Brown. He's a good guy.
Yeah, and so we have a new hire in Mark Brown. He's taken on the role of CFO. Really like Mark. He's got a tremendous amount of experience, and he's a great fit for a number of reasons. And one of them is actually that Mark was intimately involved with one of the past producing mines that our property surrounds. So he has a great knowledge of the area and of the geology. And so we're very happy to welcome him to the team. As well, Gerald brought with him somebody who he calls his mentor, Louis Dion, who's a mining engineer who also worked at Barrick. They worked at Barrick together. And Louis was one of the key people that Gerald brought to the Detour project as well.
So you brought Gerald on and then did a financing with BMO that I believe is a bought deal. That must have funded your next drill program. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we again, we're very fortunate to bring Gerald on for reasons like that. With Gerald came a strong relationship with BMO. We completed a bought deal late into the year, and that was a raise of $5.5 million. It was fully subscribed, and it gave us the funds to drill almost 10,000 meters at Sam Otto. We started in January. We just recently completed that program, and we're still waiting for assays to return from a good chunk of it. We have put out 3 news releases so far, including one today. All of the holes that we've drilled and released so far have hit gold mineralization, and will certainly lend to our goal, which was to expand the resource at Sam Otto, to put more gold ounces on the table there. So none of these holes would be much deeper than 200 meters. And they're all about expanding the zone, making a connection in an area which had not been previously drilled to establish continuity. And again, theoretically, this also gives us great confidence for subsequent programs at Sam Otto, because it does have a very long signature. So, there's lots of strike length left to drill after we completed this particular season.
That's a really impressive hit rate. Where can you give us an update on where you stand in terms of drilling, what's left to be done, where the assays are, what sort of news flow we could expect over the next little while?
Yeah, we're very fortunate, I think, in this environment with COVID-19. We couldn't have known this would happen, and we're lucky to have been able to complete our drilling under those circumstances. Again, being in the Northwest Territories next to Yellowknife was a big aid in being able to complete. And then, results are coming back a little bit more slowly given the environment. But, effectively, we expect to be able to deliver results for the next 6 to 8 weeks for the remaining holes, which we have not released yet. I believe we've released 18 out of 34 holes that were drilled at Sam Otto. And after exiting Sam Otto, we drilled 2 holes which targeted a new area, I guess 2 holes that went into a new target. And those 2 holes were drilled based on an IP anomaly that came from a large geophysical survey that was concurrent with our drilling this winter. So early data that came back from that IP survey indicated that, on our way back to town on the ice road, we would be going right past a spot which looked very interesting to us. And we are on the edge of our seat waiting to see what the results of those 2 holes are, because, this is kind of why we're in this camp. This is not the block and tackle Sam Otto, low grade is high grade next to town. This is like high grade is high grade is high grade. And so we're really excited to see what happens there. These are the first 2 holes into this target. We were vectored there by previous data and the IP.
And what's the name of that target?
Well, we haven't even really named the target yet. We believe we view this as an analog of the Campbell Shear, which is a structure that hosted 5 million of the 6 million ounces that were mined at the Con Mine. And those 5 million ounces were, again, like 16 grams a ton. So, these are early days on this target. So, first you drill for structure, want to make sure that you're hitting the right type of rock. So that's the beauty of this property, is that, we're out working towards a goal at Sam Otto, and then, you've got the optionality to go and drill 2 holes into what could be a tremendous opportunity, and those really abound on this property. So we've sent the message. We're focused. We want to deliver shareholders value by increasing the number of ounces we have in our resource.
Yep.
At the same time, as you're pulling the rig home from doing that, you get to poke 2 holes into something that could be a game changer. So we have the results of those 2 holes pending as well.
When do you think they'll be released?
I think with the way things are going, it's hard to put dates on assays coming back, as it's been pretty sporadic. But call it 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay, well, that sounds really exciting. And just to summarize what I'm hearing, Dave, so you've got a great asset in a great jurisdiction. You've got a proven large high-grade gold district that's had a lot of work done on it previously. Proximity to infrastructure, labor, a city, and a ton of news flow and drill results coming. It sounds like a compelling.
Yeah, and a treasury that has money to take us through some tough times here. If we have to keep our nose to the grindstone and focus on expanding our resource based on the drilling that we've completed, and on further targeting to follow up on these 2 exciting new holes, then we can do that. We can weather the storm and make sure that we don't have to dilute investors at prices that are not favorable.
Well, thanks so much for taking the time, Dave. I'm looking forward to having our webinar in a couple weeks. That'll be really fun. Get to know the story a bit more. And congratulations, you've done a great job with the project, and I look forward to the upcoming drill results.
Thanks, Deb. I think that you've got an audience that should be investing in gold, and I think that together we can offer them a great opportunity. So thank you for introducing us.